So every so often when I see an improvement in my trading, I usually at some point take a step back to analyze, well, what has happened? What has changed? What have I done differently in order to see that improvement in my trading? And it's a very, very important topic to talk about because sometimes I think we just trade and we just go about the flow. We see results getting better, but we don't actually analyze, well, what is it that we're doing in order to get better so that we can expedite that process and get us to our best selves as traders. Let's talk about that today. All right, guys. So one of the first things I came to realize that changed within me in order to improve my trading is that I stopped trading like a gambler. I started trading like a business. There's a huge difference between the two. A lot of times you come into the market opens, you see a nice trade, you get into the trade. Sometimes you risk 2%, sometimes you risk 3, sometimes 5, sometimes you risk 10. Ultimately, you have no set plan and you shift and you deviate so much that pretty much you're not really a trader, you're more so a gambler. What was important for me to do to take that next step was to treat trading like a pure business, was to take trading seriously. Now, let's think about starting a business. Let's think about how you operate a business. Whenever you want to operate a business and you want a successful business at that, a few things that are key when operating a successful business is that you have your standards, you have a set way in which you operate time and time again. And in order to constantly improve, you're constantly auditing yourself. Now, if we translate that to trading, what does that look like? Well, what that looks like is I have a plan that is in place. There's a particular way I go about trading. There's a particular way that I approach trading. And once that is defined, and once the plan is in place on how I approach trading, I follow that plan no matter what. Going against that plan, deviating from that plan is non-negotiable. I make sure that plan is being followed because this is what I do as a business. And also as a business, I need to make sure I'm protecting myself as much as possible, even making sure that protecting myself is a higher priority than making more profits. Because ultimately protecting capital is what will keep you in this game much, much longer than just trying to chase quick capital as much as possible. And going back to auditing every so often, every week, every couple of weeks, every month, I want to review what the business has been doing, where the struggle areas are, how do we address them, and how do we improve from them? If we're doing good already, well, how do we keep up that momentum? How do we get even better? That is the constant cycle of successful businesses out there. And so it should be the constant cycle if you're treating trading as a business and you want to see success in your trading. You need to constantly look over the things that you are doing and be able to be as critical as possible and make the necessary adjustments as best as you possibly can. Another thing you realize about a lot of businesses is they're not going to necessarily be in so many different types of buckets, meaning selling clothing, selling food, selling this, selling that, unless they have already mastered their core bucket. Meaning if I'm a clothing brand, I need to at least master my main product. After I've mastered my main product, perhaps I can extend to other products and see how I do in these other products. Very similarly, it's not a good idea to strategy hop when you have no core strategy that actually works consistently. You need to master one strategy, stick to one strategy, and make sure you fully understand that strategy. After you found success with that strategy, sure, there'll be different market environments where other strategies are more appropriate. There'll be different times you want to change things up. That's fine. But you do have to stick to your core thing, stick to what you do best. Make sure you don't deviate from that and make sure you maximize that first before you start going into other ways of doing things. So ultimately what that looks like is choose one pair or instrument, choose one model, and choose one time period. You want to be as consistent as possible, master that area, and then feel free to move around into other things that you can start to master. Remember that a key thing in this market is recognition, meaning there are many times I've gone into trades and I've gone into market environments that, to be honest, my true unfair advantage is that I've seen this before. I recognize this market environment, meaning I've been trading gold for so many years. I've been trading this strategy for so many years that during this time period, during the news that came out, and during this time period, I know exactly how to take advantage of this move right over here. That only happens if you're sticking to something consistently. Consistency in this way is what allows you to determine with this instrument what a true A+ setup looks like versus a B setup. It all has to do with the data and how many times you've seen something play out over and over again. It's all because ultimately you are familiar with the patterns of this pair now. And being familiar with something is what starts to breed confidence. Revenge trading, overtrading, FOMO, each and every one of us have fallen into that. And it's very important that in your audits that you are catching that and you ask yourself, well, why am I trading during this time? Why am I rushing into trades? Why do I feel like because I missed a move, I need to rush into it late, as if the market is not going to produce more and more moves in the future? This likely is going to be one of your biggest hurdles in order to level up your trading. But it's not until you hone in and focus on the things that you can put in place to safeguard yourself, or in other words, protect yourself from yourself. It's not until you focus on these things that you're going to see a huge jump in the improvement of your trading. So ultimately, if you ever find yourself in the middle of giving into your emotions when trading, no matter what it is, whether it's FOMO over trading or revenge trading, pause for a second and tell yourself, there's no need for me to be doing this. This is not how I trade, and most importantly, this is not how we do good business. We need to make sure that we're not overreactive, that we stick to our plan, and we carry out our plan time and time again. Despite the losses, despite the misses, we do what we need to do consistently, and eventually we find success. Finally, guys, track everything. Track everything. Check everything that you've done, your results, your wins, your losses, how you got your wins, how you got your losses, right? Because all wins and losses are not created equal. You need to dig into what you are doing and ask yourself, well, am I improving? Am I making the same mistakes over and over again? Am I following up on my wins, or are my wins looking more random? You need to audit yourself and be as detailed as you possibly can be. The more data you gather, the more you're well informed and the more you know how to adjust. Every single successful business does this. And in order for you to know how to improve, you need to do it too. All right, guys. So I hope you guys really take heed to this advice. If you really want to level up your trading, start thinking about business and start reading up on how successful businesses run. Because in order for you to level up as a trader, you really need to start treating this like a business. All right, guys. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, guys, please like, share, and subscribe. And until next time, guys, peace.